All right, everybody. So this is Heritage Language Teaching Methods and Materials. It's the first day of classes, spring semester 2021. Hope you're all doing well. It's great to see your faces. I'm really excited about this opportunity because those of you who, especially who are in the scholars, the Hayukatungi Day Scholars Program, future language teachers, like I had y'all in a class with like 42 people total. So everybody's just getting a little bit lost in terms of just the number of students. So, and we're talking about generally Indigenous studies types of things and Alaska Native knowledge and peoples and cultures. Whereas this class is just about languages and mostly about developing and implementing, assessing, and revising curriculum. And so I'm really excited to just have this semester to just have these conversations. So the general sort of structure is going to be Mondays are days for talking. We're going to read a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about that stuff. And then Wednesdays are the days you'll be working in groups and you're going to develop lessons. You're going to try them out. And then we're going to talk about them and see what kinds of ideas we could share. So first of all, this is a collaborative, safe, respectful environment. This is a good space to just try things out. This is a good space to sort of question a whole bunch of stuff that might be out there in terms of educational structures and systems. This is a space where we can critique each other without hurting each other's feelings. My favorite way to do that, and I learned this, I don't know where I learned this actually, probably in a creative writing class, I think from a teacher. It's called a compliment sandwich. So if you're the first one to talk, so you're going to give feedback on something that somebody did as a peer, as a colleague, then you're going to say something nice about what they did that's specific, right? So you're not going to say that was great, but, and then jump into your critiques, but really give something specific, just like that was really effective, the way you're using animals and engaging and hands-on type of stuff, which is a little bit challenging because everything's hands-off because we're still in the quarantine. However, so something positive and specific and genuine, like just don't reach for something, just like say something that was really effective. Then move into your critique section of what kinds of things and try to, I'm sure we're all in the habit of being respectful, so like respect it's not just something that's a poster on the wall. This is something that we live every day, just making sure that we're seeing each other. We're, even though we're doing everything through Zoom, it should be just as if we're sitting in the same room with our elders there, listening to us talk. And our children and our kids sitting there, listen to us talk, the youth. And so, but we can still say things about what might, other things to consider. Oh, maybe if you use these types of things, that might make it even better, right? And so we're trying to be additive as well, and not just, I'd be real leery of what I would call like kind of vacant criticism. Sometimes people will say things to me, like they'll say, oh, there's errors there. There's a lot of errors. And I'll say, well, where are the errors? Tell me and I could fix them. And then they'll never say anything, right? Or they'll say, there's something wrong with what you did. And I'll say, well, what was wrong? And they won't say anything. It's like just a sort of kind of an instinct that I think is a product of the colonial world we live in, where we just got to cut each other down a little bit. And we're going to really try not to do that. We could still critique each other without like trying to we're just going to lift each other up, right? And so, and the goal is just to be in this sort of laboratory type of environment. As educators, it's really important to have those spaces where you could just try stuff out. And so that's kind of the tone. and as far as who you are and how you identify and who your people are, your family, whatever, like that should all be protected and safe. And you should be totally comfortable just being yourself here. And just, we're going to make these connections all semester long. And we are the team. We are the team that's collectively trying to do some stuff. And the things that I like to try and do is just share everything with everybody. And yeah, and if you got an earlier version of the syllabus, you'll notice like there was some clinket in there. And if you can re-clink it, you'll realize that those are dates and times from some other class, because I copied and pasted the top portion of the syllabus and forgot to update the days and times of the class. But you can just get the newer copy. The newer copy has, it switched to English and the correct times. So those might be the only errors in the syllabus, but I doubt it. So yeah, that's all that was. It was just a little mistake. But if you want to give me a compliment sandwich about the syllabus, I'm always hungry for compliment sandwiches. And so, anyways, so we're going to go through the syllabus today. We're going to talk about what we're going to do in the class. But first, there's 14 of us here. So I'm never good at like calling on people. So that leaves just sort of sometimes quiet time. But we all probably know each other in some regards, and we're going to get to know each other quite a bit more through this semester. So one of the things that I'd like us to do is just to say hi. So tell us who you are, and that's totally up to you what you want to say. And then tell us like what your experience is with language teaching, and then maybe what you're hoping to gain this semester. So there's 3 things: who you are, your experience with teaching and any sort of curriculum type of development, and then what you're hoping to get out of the semester. So who would like to go first?
I could go first and bite the bullet, I guess. Who I am? Sanjat Hinud Hadkithi Kiang. My head name is Sanjat. I know most of you guys from last semester, so I'm not going to do too much, but I am in the scholars program and learning the Haida language. My experience with teaching, done numerous camps, I guess, language camps, not really necessarily immersion, but language camps and classes, community classes. Also, I was an instructor aide at an immersion preschool in Heidelberg for a couple years. What I hope to get out of this semester is basically, the knowledge to teach it. I consider myself a learner, so it's hard to get the tools to turn around and teach what I learned.
Oh,
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Joseph Blair Jr., Kim got touched by 60 born my English name is Joseph Blair Jr. My name is I'm also in the language Catholic program, and I'm excited to be in this class with you all and keep learning from you all from me and the rest of you. This month. I don't know. Okay.
It got a little choppy at the end there, but I could hear most of it.
I could go next. Ki tidasa Rabbi Hinodi Kian, Dak Jews Hinu Hadkif Dikian. I know most of you, so I said my name was Rob Yates, and that my Haida name is Duck Juice, which literally means small shrimp. I'm from Craig, and I'm in the Scholars Program. Experience with teaching. I taught one class with the Seattle Haidas, and what I use for curriculum, my goal was to come up with as many everyday sentences in Hadkil so that we could drop English and we replace it with Hadkil with all these names. So it went pretty good. The leader was religious, so we started every class with a Haida prayer, and then the leader would sing a song. It would be either a Haida gospel song or just a Haida song. And what I hope to get out of this class is more methods, developing more methods of curriculum, and I'm going to have to learn Google Slides and PowerPoint really fast.
How
Nila Toraya Tanakasai Hauslakaduhan. My name is Nila Tora. My English name is Anna Clock. Hi, everybody. And I have a little bit of experience through Doyan Foundation hosting language learning circles in my heritage language of Danaka. And in that class, we mostly learned about how to share materials on Zoom, how to play like language games amongst adults using using Zoom. But I think I'm kind of interested in learning about how to teach young children. And I know that with Zoom, it takes a lot more like engagement, like engaging methods of being interesting, because you're kind of like trying to keep the kids' attention. And also I'd like to learn too about like how you host the immersion spaces to keep the conversation going in the language. Gonna teach.
Sheesh.
I can go. Can you hear me? Okay, great. My computer crashed earlier, so at the very beginning I was like, oh, gone. So I'm back. Kasha Titi, sorry, Kashi Khadu, so a little rusty. My name is Frank, and yeah, I'm excited about this class and the experience that I have. I've done a couple of camps and tried implementing language in a lot of them, like performing arts camps and things like that, arts camps. and just trying to find terminology and concepts and ideas that can be done in Tlingit. So I've done that for a number of years now, and that's most of what my background is as far as teaching Tlingit language.
Jeez. Oh gosh.
I'm a Gadu Sulyek. Oh,
Go ahead.
Hukyung Stoayu, Simshianu, David Roger Lang, Dewam Gumchuam. My name is David Lang, Hukyungs in Simshian. My teaching experience, I did the Generic Art Academy with SHI, pairing teachers and artists to teach artists about the classroom requirements and structures like that, and then teach the teachers about native art, and then done a little bit of lesson leading and group work with our Samalgyak language, Juneau language, Juneau Samalgyak group. And yeah, with the hopes for the class, just learning more methodologies and specific to native languages, and yeah, looking forward to learning more.
Nice.
Dirksen.
Go next. Kach Tsinach Sai Chukanedi Khatsati Hunakau Dach. I've been my name's Kach Tsin Chukanedi. I've been teaching in classes like an instructor or kind of a teacher and like an artist in residence, K through 12 in a couple different school districts, and not the best. I want to work towards being incorporating more Tlingit language with art a lot more. I've been focusing a lot more on Yauk or canoes, all the different styles, just building my knowledge base with that, and the Tlingit language behind it. It's pretty tough to learn both. And just, yeah, I want to learn more. I'm stoked about this class too, and the other classes. And yeah, cheesh.
Jeez.
Adet, Katie Turner Seedra, Degetanishan de la Chich Nation. I am Katie Turner. I am from Holy Cross. I'm Degetan Athabascan, and I haven't really had any prior teaching experience. I'm more in like the learning phase, but I would like to go into teaching more language stuff, like unprofessionally, in my hometown. So I'm really looking forward to just picking up the skills along the way in order to do so. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. And what's your hometown again?
Holy Cross.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you, Kate.
Sure.
While we're waiting for the next person to step in, you never have to apologize for any pets or cats or background noises, as long as you're tuned in and here. A lot of us are doing this stuff from home, so I got a puppy back there. She makes these moaning noises sometimes while she's sleeping. I got kids that might come in here with some kind of crisis or video game requests, so it's all good. Okay, who is next?
I live in and school district since I was since 2016. My final native languages and studies, and I feel still really a small fraction of it. So I think that for me, and I did and really primary and also
Okay,
these
sorry, your audio's
this
broken.
is relevant, and so and in this no, you know, crazy right now. I saw that and now I'm still at work. And I say sorry. Yeah, that's me.
Unfortunately, like the audio,
Can you hear me?
no, it's coming through like sounding pretty
Hello?
robotic and stretched out. So it didn't quite work, but I was trying not to interrupt you. But maybe we could try it again a little
Oh,
later.
rats. Okay.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Sounds good.
So you could try it again, or we can.
All right.
Maybe we'll come back. It sounds like a video game on my end, and so it's kind of neat to listen to, but unfortunately I can't understand when you're talking. Okay, good sheesh.
Li amahupol de chat nis newsum, some shodum newsum do ayu. Takwan ligi Nafakatla, Alaska, Diwatwatku, Terrace, BC, the Ach, Diwat Zagu, Lukoluam Godu, Nawanidsism. Some of you guys might remember me from the Institute. I was on a couple different panels, those of you that are scholars in the program. My name is Simshoram Newsome. My other name is Dr. Michael D'Angeli. And Hune has given me the awesome opportunity just to hang out. I have I have teaching experience at all levels of human development. I'm a K through 12 teacher, an adult teacher. I've taught residential school survivors. I'm a fourth year instructor in the Somalia Fluency Program at University of Northern British Columbia. So I'm here just to give good, big, we like some, what did you call them, compliment sandwiches? I'm here to support you guys. I hope I can make it to as many as I can. But I'm also here because, you know, Somalia teaching, I've essentially taught the way I wish Somalia would have been taught to me. Because there's such big assumptions in terms of what when I was learning, what was brought to me or what was offered and what wasn't. And so I've just kind of learned to create very student-centered methods and content in terms of, you know, what are my students interested in learning? What ways seem most effective for their learning skills, but I've never actually been trained in any like teaching methodologies. I've gone to a few workshops here and there. So I'm also here to learn. I'm here to share, but I'm here to learn along with all of you. And so I really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm really proud of all of you scholars in the program.
Oh, excellent. Let's keep it going. We should only have a few left, maybe.
I'm Nalwea. I'm what am I supposed to say? I'm Klingit, and I'm in the Scholars Program. And let's see, teaching experience. I think that like as soon as I felt confident, like I had things that I could teach, I was like, I want to teach these things to people, because for me it's like really helpful for solidifying what I already know. But that's not to say like it was like any particular methodology. It was just sort of like haphazard, like what do I know that I can share? And is that all I'm supposed to say? Oh, what do I want to get out of this? I mean, learning actual teaching methods would be great. And I am also working on finishing a bachelor's of mathematics right now, as well as studying Tlingit. And I'm really interested in figuring out how to talk about mathematics in Tlingit.
Okay. Sheesh. And there's a Navajo scholar who helped the Hawaiians. I know that. And I think he also helped Yupik peoples to develop math curriculum in their language. I'll try and find his name and get it to you. Okay, who else? Maybe 3 more, maybe?
Ja, Lauren Frankie, Hinodi Kia Ong. I'm Lauren Frankie. I'm from Craig, Alaska, but grew up mostly in Juneau. And I have taught one class last year for Hodkill like a couple months ago. And I feel like it went well, but I really had no idea how to even start to go about like how to teach it really, I guess, like methods and stuff. So I'm excited to learn how to do that kind of thing. How
Hi, Kastikin Aksai, like kind of Jira Baby, Hatila Talk, Chaka Kastikin, Comment Manada, Kunakaluja. My cricket name is Kastikin, my English name is Galen. I'm Eagle Wolf from Huna. I haven't really taught anything at all yet. Any teaching is more like with my sisters and like their kids, just at home kind of thing, or I'm training my puppy right now in cricket, and that's like the most of teaching, I guess. So I hope to get out of this class feeling more like a teacher versus a student. And also I have with me my roommate Sarah, who's gonna go next. Kipchaki, Terrestrial, my cricket name is Kipchaki. My English name is Sarah Teal. I'm from Heidelberg, but I mostly grew up in Alaska, in Florida. And I have basically no teaching experience. I kind of joined our language pathways program on a whim, not thinking I would be accepted and not really thinking the whole plan through. But now I'm super excited to be a teacher and help mold small children's minds and teach them language and anything else that I know. And I really hope to get a better understanding of like what would be the best like community-based learning for Heidelberg and preschool age children in Heidelberg. So
Okay, thanks, Joe, here again. I also forgot to mention like my experience with teaching Hodkill, and I've only got one experience so far.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone by chance?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Okay. I have taught one workshop with the youth at the first Boston Institute back in October, I think it was. And one thing I hope to get out of this class is to
How, is that everybody? We do.
Yak dushi you chut duasak, played cock enach Lisa DeWitt Marino, you chut duasak, kitch hank ye chut yati. My Tlingit name is Yak Dushi. I live in Ketchikan. I have some experience teaching classes, adult classes, family classes, short lessons within the school district here in Ketchikan. I'm really hoping to gain more creative ways to teach the language and actual teaching methods, including how to create materials and such via Zoom. Ganeftish.
Sheesh. Anyone else? I think that's everybody by my count. Maybe. Guachier. Okay, if I miss anybody, chime in, and so let me know. So I'll go ahead and introduce. I'll answer the same set of questions. Sinudung. Did I mess that up? My name is Rene. In Haida, it's Ejak. And I was born in Skagway. We call it Shkagwe or Wishkakuye. My Nani's family is from Heidelberg. She was born in Waterfall, Alaska. Her name was Dorothy Jorgensen. Her mother was Ruth Kogo. My mother's father's people were Cy Dennis. His parents were Bert and Marion Dennis, and Marion Dennis's father was John Donawak. My father's side were Yupik and Sami. His father, his name was Tim Twitchell, and his father was also Tim Twitchell. He was a teacher. He was the first one in our family to go to college, I think in 1924, maybe. He was living in Bethel and decided to go to college. So he walked from Bethel to Fairbanks and went to college. So I wrote that on a lot of scholarship applications. I was like, well, I didn't do that, but that was my inspiration to keep going. And then his wife, his partner was Anna Twitchell. She was Sami. Her family was brought to Western Alaska to teach reindeer husbandry, I guess they call it, reindeer herding. And I've been teaching Tlingit for probably about 20 years. I studied Haida for about a year with Julie Coburn, but that was too long ago. And my interests are really in trying to figure out, like, what can I do to just continue to improve things for all of our languages in Southeast Alaska. And so I really enjoy making things for language learning, dictionaries, grammars, lessons, workbooks, and just thinking of all these different things. I've studied other languages, especially Hawaiian, but to some extent Mohawk. So I was able to speak some Hawaiian and really studied a lot of what they tried to do and have a lot of contacts over there. And then one of my partners, one of my buddies in our program he's Mohawk, and he's a teacher and a materials developer over there in Six Nations. And I talked to him an awful lot about language learning and development. I'm always thinking about like this relationship between anthropology and Indigenous peoples and linguistics and Indigenous peoples and how complicated those relationships sometimes are. And I'm always pushing for increased local control, increased Indigenous control, and then making languages, Indigenous languages, the languages of power and use, in trying to increase the capacity of our people to avoid duplication, to have high quality materials, to share things as much as possible, to be in more of a open source type of a world as opposed to one that has to deal with copyright. But this leads to people accusing me of plagiarism. This leads to people sending me nasty letters. And then I also try to really take a close look at lateral violence. So that kind of violence, like the plagiarism and the nasty letters, is external violence. It's like white linguists who send me nasty emails, and that bothers me, but not as much as lateral violence. So, you know, somebody's uncle who's really mean to them in the language for reasons that are pretty unclear, except for just harboring pain and then pushing that pain onto someone else. But I do think all of that stuff needs to go into language planning and curriculum development, which are things that go hand in hand. I also think we need to just continue to increase our capacity when we're talking about archives, we're talking about access to materials, we're talking about updating materials. And I think Indigenous peoples are the experts. We are the experts of our own materials. And to some extent, we need a lot of help from everywhere. But if the experts are all external, I think it does create problems historically, and I think it'll continue to create problems in the future. So that's why I'm excited to teach a class like this. We're all doing this stuff together. We're collaborating. So even though my name's on the record as a teacher, and I'm the one who creates the error-filled syllabus, I'm just a person. So whenever we're chatting and stuff, my goal is that we're having an open conversation inspired by the readings that we do. But I'm not really here to show you the way, because I don't know. Even when I first started teaching, I've always been teaching just ahead of what I know. And there's always situations where I'll be trying to explain something and I'll realize I don't really know how that works, because it's taken me an awful long time to tell someone how it works. So, but I like those spaces. I think they're fun. I make a lot of errors in everything I do because I'm a human being. A colleague of mine, her name is Trisha Maquino. She works with language in Southwestern United States. She said it best. She said, perfection is a colonial mechanism. We don't need it. And so I make a lot of typos, a lot of other types of errors. When I say stuff, I'll say stuff wrong all the time. And it's kind of fun and interesting. But I've seen old people who spoke really, really well, who would just make little mistakes every now and then. And so I don't get hung up on mistakes, but I also, as you develop some things, which you're going to do in this class, I encourage you to think of all this stuff. Like, what does your perfect language world, what is your ideal, what does the language world look like in your dreams? If we could have it, what would it be? And then we're going to build a map to get there. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to do in here, there's some of the stuff like, here's a lesson, here's a piece of curriculum, I made it, we're going to try this out, we're going to see how to use it. And that's sort of the day-to-day grind. But then there's going to be a couple of big things that you turn in at the end of the semester. And we're going to talk about that when we look at the syllabus. But I think I'll just sort of pause there and just see if anybody has any thoughts, questions, responses, anything like that before we move into the syllabus, which will outline what we do in this class. There's quite a bit of reading, so might not like me very much towards the end of the semester, but I think it's worth it. I think it's really good to look at what folks are doing, and we'll come up with some strategies, because there's a couple of days where there's like a lot of stuff, and we might just we might divide it and report back, but it's all there in the syllabus. And when we go through it, it includes how long everything is, like how many pages there are. So that way you can strategize and start chipping away at some of the bigger things. Now, and there's no reading this week, so that's nice. Anybody got any thoughts, questions, comments?
What's the process for building curriculum? I mean, do you have to, well, you would have to know, for instance, what grade you were teaching or what audience you were teaching. If it's, say, an adult immersion class, the curriculum would be totally different than a preschool immersion class. So on Wednesdays, when we start developing and assessing curriculum, do we have to come up with a certain target group for that curriculum?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it makes me think, like, when we were first starting our Tlingit language nest, it started with like, just they call it toddler time. And so we'd all get together at the library and bring our kids and try to keep them in the language for an hour. And one day, like the teacher, she couldn't make it and asked if I could do it. And I was like, oh, sure. And so people show up, and then my wife was there, Mariah, and she said, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm firing up this projector. We're going to talk about the classifier and some grammar stuff. And she said, these are toddler, you know, and so I had to adjust. I had to adjust on the fly. I was like, oh yeah, let's do like a story and some games, right? So that's a great question, is to know what your audience is. And so as we sort of think about, so the Monday stuff is pretty prescribed. Like, read this, let's talk about it. Read this, let's talk about it. And that's really what we're doing. And then we're also going to talk about a wide variety of other stuff. I've picked up quite a few skills, just sort of looking at software and figuring out how to use it. And there are a few things that I want to just sort of take a couple classes and make sure that there's enough time on some of the Monday classes to show you some things, like whether it's the Adobe software suite and how I usually use that stuff to create things. Elon, to be able to create subtitled videos, basically, or to pull transcription and translation out of a text and create a book. Like there should be books of bilingual stories in Haida, in Tsimshian, in Tlingit. Like we should have all of that stuff. There's some dictionary software that I think works pretty well to be able to localize control of your own dictionaries. And then there's just the sort of targeting these different age groups. And so when I was in Hawaii, I was sitting in a classroom that was all in Hawaiian. And at that point, I didn't really know any Hawaiian. And I had no idea what was really going on, but I knew it was awesome because the class was early childhood development and it was taught entirely in Hawaiian. And I said, that's what I want. That's the world I want. So we can have those discussions. How do children learn and how do we teach them? And to have those conversations all in our language. And so we can have some aspects of that. My background is not in early childhood development, but I've raised 3 bilingual kids, so I could tell you a lot of stuff about teaching kids languages. We can invite folks from the language nests in to come and chat with us. And then when it comes to adult learning, we could talk about some different strategies. And it's gotta be very comprehensive. There's no one answer. I think you're going to have a whole lot of changes in a whole bunch of different places. So you need a language nest, and then you need a language medium school, but you got to increase what's going on at the public schools. You need an adult immersion program, but you also need some college level classes or community classes that are targeting adults. And then you're also going to have to come up with some strategies for folks who can understand the language, but for whatever reason, it's very hard for them to speak it. That's a different learning environment than someone who's kind of starting from scratch. So yeah, that's great questions. I'm going to try to keep it somewhat grassroots and organic, I guess, for the Wednesday. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk today and Wednesday about what sounds best for everybody. Sometimes working on your own, sometimes working in a group, and sort of picking what type of lesson you want to develop. And you should have in mind who's your target group. Like, is this some immersion activity that's a community lesson? Is this for the preschool? That's the language nest? Is this for something that we could do at a culture camp and we needed 20 minutes of language stuff? So yeah, we're going to be really flexible on that, which I hope works, because I want you to be able to fit your own needs and ideas. And we could partner up, we could pair up, we can group up. There's a bunch of different stuff we could do. And there's, by my count, at least 4 languages that are in this class as far as Indigenous languages. And then there might be folks who join us who don't speak an Indigenous language yet, but they're already teachers and they want to contribute. And so there could be some real cool opportunities for pairing up and working with some established teachers. So there's no limitations, but we'll sort of go along so we're not totally just running around in the dark with no flashlight. Other thoughts, questions?
Is there ever going to be a portion throughout the semester of how to combat like all the naysayers, kind of, you know, like especially like among colleagues when you're trying to bring that stuff in? I mean, and obviously a lot of that stuff like stems from weird like racist stuff, but yeah, if there's anything like combat that stuff at work, that would be super helpful.
Yeah. Well, I just noticed like this Christmas tree looks like a cool hat sometimes if I sit at the right angle. But to come back to your question, yes. And so the concept is usually attitudes towards language, right? And so that's kind of what the linguistic term is for it. And some of those attitudes are from, sometimes there's Indigenous people who don't want to learn the language, right? Like there's someone that I really like to talk in Tlingit with, and we saw each other and we were speaking, and there's 2 other people who were hanging out with us who didn't speak Tlingit, and they got really mad at us. Like you ever have someone who says something like, for example, let's say you're talking with someone in the back seat of a car and they're talking with someone in the front seat of the car, and they turn to someone and they say something super aggressive, but it's really directed at you. Like they think they're so effing better than us because they speak the language, right? And so that's targeting us for speaking the language, but they probably felt bad because they couldn't speak it. So it's complicated. And so sometimes you're dealing with that kind of stuff. Other times you're dealing with white supremacy in institutions, where the institutions want to keep the things out. And there's a whole variety of levels where it could be a pretty overt level of that, where it's just sort of right out in the open. You know, someone who probably to some degree would just come right out and state their racism, which would be, well, you know, there's no use for that, or why do we want to go backwards? You know, and so they'll just come out and just say some really racist stuff. Others, there's a covert level of racism, which usually comes out in terms of, oh, I'd love to, but we got to get these kids ready for the real world, and there's no time and there's no energy and blah, blah, blah. And so it comes out in this other way, which is usually masked as some sort of compassion. And both of those are disturbing. So in terms of the Monday classes, we're going to get inspired by the readings. We're going to talk about the readings, but then we can also, it's fair game. We talk about anything in here in terms of clearing the path for you and your language work. And I like the terms overt and covert, because all it means is overt is out in the open. Covert is just sort of, sometimes it's stuff that is either in secret or it's stuff that's just understood. For example, sometimes you have the ways that things work in terms of laws. Like sometimes you have to have a law on the books for stuff, right? Like it is illegal, like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with like freedom of speech, right? So freedom of speech is a law, but that doesn't mean I could say, I'm gonna kill you. Like that crosses the line into criminal behavior, right? And so sometimes you need to come right out and state things, and other times you don't need to state things. And so the overt and the covert is also part of your language planning. So for example, there was someone in Hawaii who said to me, well, there was a small group of us who knew what was going on, but we didn't tell too many people that because they'd come and try and take it over. And we wanted to have this core group that sort of was really trying to keep things going because it's dangerous waters, right? There's all kinds of interesting stuff out there in terms of the institutional racism and the societal racism that you might face. Then also there's just weird things in terms of family politics. Maybe someone's mad because you're doing it and not their kid, or whatever. There's all kinds of weird stuff that you're going to have to become pretty skilled at overcoming. And part of that has to do with having I think a small group of allies. And we there was a group a couple of years ago, and we called ourselves the executive committee. And we're not trying to be better than anybody. We're just who's going to do the work and who can have those tough conversations, so that we can we had to come up with a code word. And we came up with that code word because we might be in mixed company with a meeting with different organizations, and someone says, hey, you should get so-and-so to come give a speech. But we know so-and-so, and so-and-so used to be abusive to children. And so we would have that code. And once somebody said that code word, we would all be on board with shooting down whatever the thing was, right? It was just a way for us to get on the same page, which sometimes you have to do, but this stuff it's murky waters, because you could be dealing with gossip and assumption and stereotypes and all kinds of stuff. You could have a stereotype about someone oh, they're just racist, but then maybe it's something more complicated than that. But yeah, we can have those conversations, and those are ones too, again, so we're going to record this class, we're going to share the recordings, but if you got tough stuff you want to talk about, let's do that before the recording starts. So I'll just try and make a habit out of Monday, just saying, okay, anybody want to share anything before we start recording the class? And that's where we can have some of those conversations. They're not for everybody, so. Anyone else? Okay. Well, let's walk through the syllabus then. Let me put it on the screen. Okay, so language teaching methods and materials. So again, we're going to kind of split our time between studying sometimes curriculum sets, sometimes articles, chapters, some really long texts in some cases, and then making stuff and teaching each other. And so ideally, we're going to come out of this class with having read a bunch of stuff, having some clearer ideas just in terms of our role as a language teacher and what we contribute to the larger movement, and how the movement can become a little bit more guided and structured without being restrictive. This is information on the class. This is how you get a hold of me. This is the Zoom link for our class. And then I guess one of the things we already talked about, respectful environments, being kind with each other all the time, but also being open to critique. Sometimes it's almost instinctual to get a little defensive if you do something and right away someone starts sort of saying something negative about it. So we're going to avoid some of that stuff and try and be open to receiving critique, but also really try and support each other and just say, well, what if we really just lifted each other up all the time? That'd be really cool. I don't really specialize in any particular methods. Like there are some methods like TPR and where are your keys and some things like that, which some people really, really enjoy. And I've just never really, I've attended a few trainings on a lot of them. And then there was the accelerated second language learning, which is also known as the gray morning method. And I'm not against these methods. I've just never been one to really employ them. There's certain things I might take from them. And then the TPRS is another one. And we could talk about some of those things, just if you've never heard of them, we can go over what they are, but I'm not going to be the one who can teach you those things. I could certainly tell you resources if you want to bring some folks in to do some of that. And if you want to integrate that into what you're doing, I think it's great. And then we're going to talk as well. Sometimes we're going to come back to these concepts of the micro, the meso, and the macro, which is what can we be doing for individuals and families? What could we be doing for the community and the region? And what could we be doing at the tribal, state, and national governmental level? And sometimes you got to sort of stratify things a little bit to be strategic and say, you know, for the micros, usually, how do we convince people to use our language? How do we do it? And how do we get them the tools so that they can do that? And how do we remove any barriers that might be in the way? For the Meso, it's sort of like, how do we make our language the language of the area, right? I mean, I would love that. So that if you go to a Haida community, you're just expected to encounter some Haida. That's just gonna happen. And you should, if you live there, you should have some knowledge of it. And same with in Tlingit territory and in the Tsimshian territory. And then at the macro, it's sort of like, what kind of changes do we need to make now? And I'll share my ideas on what kinds of things need to happen as the class goes on. All of our texts are in this Google Drive. So if you, I'll walk you folks through that after we do the schedule, but it's organized by week 2, week 3, week 4, and on and on. So everything's right there. There's no readings until week 3 because next Monday is a holiday. So you got some time. You might hate me by the amount of stuff that's there, but I'm gonna try and give you as many tools as I can so you can tackle it. By the end of this class, you will be able to articulate your own theories on second language acquisition, classroom management, materials development, and student motivation. And we're going to talk about how you're going to articulate that. You should be able to develop a syllabus for an introductory level class that is annotated with explanations of the choices made on materials, schedules, assessment, and grading. And so if you're going to go forward and teach, like a syllabus is really just sort of, it's a contract between you and the students, and it's also an outline of what's going to happen and how folks are going to be graded. And then complete a research assignment with decolonizing aspects of academic research in mind. So language work, Indigenous language revitalization is decolonization. It always is. And it's always going to be this interesting navigation of what we have and what we know and what we can do and what we're trying to build. Any questions so far? Okay, so in terms of what you're gonna do, so you're gonna come and you're gonna talk. So that's it. Keep in mind, this is all through Zoom. I'm not counting the times people talk or anything like that, but if you got something to say, say it. This is a good, it's a safe space. This is a good place to share your thoughts and to have a dialogue on stuff. If it leads you, this thing makes me think about this other thing, let's talk about the other thing too. But there's other ways to participate if we're having a dialogue. You could send me a private message through the chat. And if you send a private message, I'll just bring it up. I won't say who said it. That way, if there's something you want to talk about, but you feel like it's kind of a sensitive thing, I'll just bring it to the table and we'll just talk about it. If another way is through email, if you want to email me your thought, if you want to set up a time during office hours to have a private chat about stuff, we could do that. But a lot of the things, if there's some specific question or topic, I would prefer to talk about it as a group, even if it's something really tough to talk about. And then we'll just sort of work through that stuff together. But basically just show up, be part of the thing, right? And then your lesson demonstrations. So we're gonna work in groups and we'll just kind of see how it goes. Like, is the group going to create one thing or a set of things, or individuals going to be sharing stuff? So it'll be something, we'll talk about that today and also Wednesday. The class is 90 minutes per session. So somewhere around the halfway point, I'm gonna try to take a 5-minute break so we can do a little self-care, do what we need to do so we can stay refreshed. And then, so you're gonna just show us these, and you're not getting graded based on how well you put that together. You're expected to do so. You're just expected to do it, and we're gonna just talk about it. But being able to create curriculum, we're not trying to create some A+ curriculum. We're just trying stuff out. It's a total like an open lab, just to share ideas, to share thoughts, to think of things. You should have in mind what your age group is, what your environment is that you would teach this. And that it's a good idea to just let us know right off, right before we start, to say, okay, here's something I'd like to do for families of our language nest. So the idea is families with younger children, and that's who this lesson is for. And then you'll walk us through it, and you'll basically give it a test run, and then maybe afterwards explain it a little bit, and just say, oh yeah, so I was thinking this, that, and I got this idea from here, just tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll have a conversation. And don't feel like, just because we're giving feedback, don't feel like you always have to critique something and find something wrong, but let's just have a conversation. For starters, let's try to keep that compliment sandwich in mind, something good and specific, some of the critiques, something good and specific. So then the final things that you're going to turn in for this class, we used to have people develop a syllabus, and I've kind of pushed it. I'm leaning in a different direction this semester. So one is your personal teaching philosophy. So this is your approach to teaching an Indigenous language. And this is something that you should revisit every few years. What was it and what is it now? And it's just good to have that in writing, just in terms of, there's some different things you might have in there. And we'll maybe look at a couple examples or try it out before the semester ends. But basically, the last day of finals week is when you're gonna hand that in. Then your program curriculum methodology. And so there's some options here. So I know some of you are coming here and like maybe you're the only representative of your language, but feel free to reach out to other folks who might be familiar with that language, who are working in that language. This isn't something you have to do by yourself. And this is all, I'm not asking you to create the official guidebook for the Tlingit Nation and the curriculum. It's nothing like that, but it's just an exercise to say, well, if you had the chance, maybe you could try. And so we're gonna look at some examples of particularly Maori, Hawaiian, and Mohawk. And then you're gonna create an Indigenous philosophy of education. Again, you can work in groups, and the teaching philosophy, well, all three of these are pretty wide open. I don't have any real expectations in terms of number of pages or sources or anything like that. But it's kind of, I just want to see a demonstration of labor and thought and your process. And again, if If you guys want to work as particular languages and collaborate, rad, that sounds cool. If you don't, so it doesn't work out for whatever reason, they don't have to be competing type of documents either. Okay, but that's what we're going to create this semester. So we're just going to try out a bunch of curriculum, and then you're going to have 3 things to hand in. Personal teaching philosophy. It should be at least a couple pages, double spaced. And then sometimes you're asked to hand this in if you apply for a job as a teacher. And then the methodology, right? So how do you develop, implement, assess, and revise curriculum? What are your methods of recording, sharing, and tracking curriculum to encourage unity and avoid duplication? How are you going to integrate dialects and orthographies? And what is your strategy for assessment and for recognizing student achievement? And then the Indigenous philosophy of education, I think it's a great idea for every language to have that. The Hawaiian one is really powerful, I think, and it really helps just to have a place of operation. And we'll see some examples. Just let me know if you get any questions. As far as grading, you know, just do the stuff. If you do all the stuff, everybody does great. I'm not really taking points away for any sort of grammar things or anything like that, but I'm going to review it and give you feedback. But as long as everybody just does all the work, everybody's just fine. I'm not a huge fan of grades, even though I'm a professor, but I think there's other ways to do things. However, that's the system, and so we can collaborate and make sure we're all doing well. Any questions on that, the work we're doing this semester? Okay, home stretch. Make sure it's all your own stuff. Assess the course at the end, it helps. I'm always bad at reminding people to do that, but you have an opportunity to provide feedback. If there's something that we could have done better to put this course together, let me know. If there's something that you thought was great, let the university know. That does help. We don't discriminate at the UAS. If you encounter any sort of discrimination at UAS, you have routes that you can self-advocate, and you can also find folks who will help you advocate for yourself. That includes if I'm doing this stuff, if you feel like I'm treating you differently because of who you are, you could let me know, but there's also other paths that you can explore. And if you're experiencing that in any other class, feel free to talk to me about it, and I'm happy to help. If anybody has any special circumstances or any type of disability, you have a lot of access to services. And because you're a UAS student, you're paying fees, you're doing stuff, you also have access to counseling services, you have access to the writing center, you have access to a number of different things that you pay for. And then I'll get to some stuff from IT about like discounts for software and other stuff. As a student, there's a bunch of stuff that you can get. Some of it's language related, some of it is. Title IX protects students from crimes, in particular, any sort of sexual crimes, any sort of harassment, stalking, domestic violence, anything like that. The university there's federal protections that are in place to make sure that those things do not impact your ability to be successful as a student. So if you are experiencing anything, these are some resources. If someone you know is experiencing something, these are resources. Just know as a professor, if I find out something, I'm obligated to advocate in specific ways. So sometimes that's helpful, but that's something to just keep in mind. We're not trying to bring the man down on anybody, but we're trying to protect people, make sure they're safe. We're also trying to eliminate rape culture and other types of violence, in particular towards Indigenous women and Indigenous peoples. And so these are some things that are here in our favor. Title IX has also helped reduce professors messing around with students. Those types of things have happened. And Title IX protects students from those types of relationships because there's a power balance there. So keep this stuff in mind. Be safe to other people, be a safe person. And then this gets us to our schedule. So we're gonna work on groups. I'll probably have to rethink this whole like ABC. I was just trying to figure out my brain, and then before class started, I was like, oh, well, are we really gonna start? But everybody's part of Group A. How about that? On Wednesday, you all are going to teach us how to say your Indigenous name, if you have one. So I would prefer that we're using each other's Indigenous names in here. So you're going to teach us how to say your name. That's your first lesson, however you want to do it. Then there's a holiday on Monday, Civil Rights Day. So use that day to maybe advocate for some civil rights. I know a lot of you do that work already. And then also just sort of get your self-care time in if you need it. And I know the beginning of a semester can always be shaky. You know, we don't have this program, the Hayu Katangi Day program, and our language program at UAS is designed to create more language teachers. And if you need evidence that there's not enough language teachers, we had to cancel a class because the current teachers were overworked. We don't have the room in our workload. We tried multiple times to find people who could teach the course for us. It didn't work out. And then now we got to cancel the course, Indigenous field methods, and it's disappointing. And now I know some of you have to shuffle and try and figure out how to fill the gap with other classes, and it sucks. But there's a future out there where we have more language teachers. So we're trying to build this program, but a lot of people, and they're being really nice, but a lot of them kind of don't have faith that we're going to succeed because it's a capacity issue. We have languages in a lot of trouble. We don't have enough teachers. We're getting enough students to feel like we're getting comfortable. But is enough happening right now for me to say these 3 languages are going to live forever? I think they are, but we need to see a little bit more change. And so, but you guys you're that change, right? Anyways, okay, let's go through. So this is your guide. This schedule is your guide. So if you look ahead, here's the 25th. Hopefully all the dates are right. If you find any mistakes, let me know so I can point them out to other folks. But then basically you're going to see here the theme. And then here's the readings. In parentheses is how many pages long that reading is. So this one is 51 pages, right? So you can add them up and see how many pages do I have to read this week. And that's from Monday to Monday. So try not to get yourself in the habit of doing all your reading on Sunday. Maybe like, you know, start to knock it down. And when you're reading this stuff, like be an active reader. Circle stuff, take notes, write down things that it makes you think of, questions, thoughts, so we can have an interactive dialogue. This isn't a class of 40 people like the one I taught last semester. This is just us. It's language teachers, and also we're gonna have some other teachers who join us. So let's have interactive dialogue. This will be the only day where I'm doing most of the talking. It should be. Sometimes I'm going to want to sort of share some stuff too, but you know, the dialogue is the key. Like it should be something where we all feel like we're just having these conversations about some important stuff. So we're going to move through language revitalization, language curriculum design and socialization. That's a textbook, and so we're going to read some chapters from it. And that's the week 4 and 5. Week 6, we're going to look at a series of articles from another, a single text that look at Maori, Ojibwe, and Sami languages. We're just going to read some perspectives from folks who are in those language movements. We're going to spend 2 weeks looking at Hawaiian. And in Hawaiian, we get 2 of our larger documents. This one is the Hawaiian philosophy and education. And then this one is their kind of their curriculum design handbook, I guess is what you could call it. And so I'm going to try and see if folks will come and chat with us a little bit during 1 or 2 of those weeks, and including some of the folks who wrote some of these things, and just visit with us a little bit. But that's a pretty large chunk of reading right there. So just keep that in mind. Then you got spring break. I'm not going to give you any extra work. Just take it easy. And then we go through, we're going to look at Ojibwe, Haida, second language acquisition, which is called SLA. The First Peoples Council in BC put out a whole bunch of stuff. And we're going to take a look at that. This is also a lot of pages. So just keep that in mind, like which weeks have a lot of heavy reading. And but you know, this stuff is there. I want to make sure that you've encountered this stuff, you've engaged in it. Check it out. Like you really should be informed by time the class starts. So when like let's say it's March 22nd, you should have read all of this stuff, all of it. Okay. Oops, that handbook should be up there. Okay. Then we're going to look at some specifics of Maori, including their curriculum guidelines and their language strategy. And we're going to talk about language planning and like how to have and maintain a language plan. We're going to look at Mohawk. This is a 200-page document by Deho, Jeremy Green. I'll see if he'll come chat with us. He was in the same PhD program that I was. And then, oops, this one, I didn't put a theme. So this one is everything else. And so this also has a lot. So there's Lakota, there's, I forget what this one is. There's some Maori work on like how do you decolonize an institution. And then, oh, this long one here is actually a bunch of testimony that was given for a particular language act. And we're going to talk there about like, how do you testify and how do you get involved with legislative changes at the state and national level? So to go change the laws, because that kind of stuff needs to happen. And I'll share some of my experiences. You guys could share yours, but that's it. And then there's no class on the Monday of finals week, but we do get together on Wednesday of finals week. And ideally, you'll have your final stuff ready to hand in then so I could take a look at it. But you're going to just tell us a little bit about the work that you did, which is, again, going back up to this page 2, your personal teaching philosophy, your program curriculum methodology, and your Indigenous philosophy of education. And you might be working in groups. It's kind of up to you folks. I don't really have an established page number. If you think the whole guidebook to how you develop and implement curriculum should only be 10 pages long, then you're probably not doing enough work. But let's talk about as we go along. I trust y'all. I know y'all can do good work. That's the syllabus. That's the guideline. So Wednesday we'll talk a little bit more. Everybody's gonna teach everybody you're gonna teach us all how to say your name. That's what we're gonna do on Wednesday. And then we'll chat a little bit more about curriculum design and strategies. That's about it for today. Any last thoughts or questions?
Is the reading on the Blackboard? Like the reading?
There's a link on Blackboard to a Google Drive. So it's just all in a Google Drive. That way you don't have to And you can click there directly from the syllabus as well. And you could just go there and you could download it all right now if you wanted to. I just want to make sure it's all available. So there's no primary textbook. It's all just articles, and you jump out, read them all right now if you want to. Get hungry.
Nay.
Ah.
I was going through the readings, and I noticed in week 8 when I was just gathering the materials for the course, I apologize if I pronounced this wrong, the Kumu Honua Mauliola PDF. I'm not sure, maybe it could be my Adobe. I wasn't able to make out any of the text. A lot of it you could just see the grammar points and other symbols. I just hoping to see if that was what I should be seeing, or if I needed to find something, an updated Adobe.
Okay. Well, this is a good time to share this, I think. So here's this is what the folder should look like. So it's say, you know, week 3, week 4, week 5. I don't know if I can make this bigger. There we go. So what week was that? Week 8? Okay, so here it is. Let me see. Maybe I put the wrong. Oh, like that. Is that what it looks like? Okay. Let me see. Maybe it was the version I put in there. Thank you for letting me know. I'm gonna look at it right now. Oh yeah. Okay, I'll replace it now. I guess I got a bum version of it for some reason. Oh, and the link would not work for the Google Drive. Thank you for letting me know. Let me try putting it in the chat and see. Was everybody able to access that?
I found where to open it on the Google Drive. It looks like it's all in.
Okay.
Legible.
Okay, so the correct version is uploading. It should be there. Oh, let's test it, and then we'll sign off. That should be gone. Look, there's words. And so this one is great. When we get to it, you'll see it's written in Hawaiian, but then it's translated into Japanese, French, Spanish, and English. So it was a pretty decided move. They're like, oh yeah, we'll translate this into a bunch of languages, right? So they really do some work to not make English like the default language. It's pretty fun. All right, folks, unless there's anything else, thanks for hanging out. I'm looking forward to this semester, and we'll see you all on Wednesday. Cheesh.
Hi, I was wondering if you had a quick second.
Sure.
Okay,